So now I finished writing my introduction. Now I'm going to move to the second paragraph. We said our story has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now I finished with the beginning. I'm going to go to the middle. Okay? So my second paragraph, we call it the main body or the middle of my story. Now in the main body, I write about all the details of my adventure or of my story. We said that in my story I have to introduce some kind of problem, right? So my characters should face it. So I introduce the problem where in the body or in the middle. Okay, I start writing the details of this problem. How did it happen? What were the characters' reactions to it? Okay, how did they deal with it? Okay, so here is where I write or I introduce my problem and how my characters are going to deal with it. Of course, I'm going to use as many linking words as possible because I'm writing about actions or things happening after one another, so I'm going to have to use linking words. Okay, and of course I don't write anything about the ending yet because here I'm still or my characters are still facing the problems. They're still figuring out how to deal with it, so I don't write anything about the ending yet. So if we open the writing booklet, page 16, okay, we'll find here some linking words to improve your writing. So here I use those words to make my writing more organized, okay, especially in the body, especially in the middle. Fine. So for example, if I want to talk about actions or events in order, I will start first by first. Okay, first, and then second. So first, for example, we went to an abandoned house, and then things happen. And then second, we saw something. Okay, third, then. Okay, so we have second, third, then, later, then we saw something, and then we went, and then we ran away, and then. Okay, so here I'm linking my events. I'm putting my events in order. After that, we went or we hid in another house. Okay, next also. So these are all words that I use to link or to put my events in order. Okay, now instead of using and, because if I use a lot of and, for example, we went to the haunted house and we saw a ghost and then we ran away and then it started to chase us and we saw a weird dog and so a lot of and would make my writing very boring. Okay, it wouldn't make my writing look neat or sound neat. Okay, so instead of using a lot of and, I can say, for example, moreover. Okay, so moreover, we saw blah blah blah. Now, furthermore, instead of also using a lot of and, I can use furthermore. In addition. So in addition to the haunted house, we saw a weird animal, for example. Besides. Okay, so I can use those words instead of using a lot of and. Now, these words are very, very important. We use them to link events between one another, to make my writing more interesting, to make the events sound to the reader a lot more interesting. Okay, we can say suddenly. Okay, suddenly. Suddenly, we saw a weird man standing behind a curtain. Okay, so here I used here suddenly. It grabs my reader's attention, and it creates an interesting sound to my events. All of a sudden, he started to chase us. For example, surprisingly, we did not find any houses near that house. Okay, unexpectedly. Fine. Out of nowhere, a huge dog started to chase us. Okay. Luckily, we found a place to hide. Or fortunately also is like luckily. Unluckily, I'm sorry. Now, unluckily, the weird man and his weird dog found us. And also unfortunately is unluckily. Unfortunately, they found us after a bit. Fine, so these are all words that I can use to, first of all, put my events in order. First, this happened, and then second, this happened, and then later, after that, next, this happened. Okay, and we said instead of using and, I can say moreover, we can say furthermore, in addition, besides. Okay, and to link the events themselves, to make the events more interesting to the reader, I can add words like suddenly, surprisingly, out of nowhere, and then we can say luckily this happened, unfortunately, or this happened, or fortunately this happened. So these are all linking words to improve my writing, to make it better. This is like we said, is in the middle or in the body, where I'm describing the events or I'm describing the problem that my characters are facing. Now, I'm sorry, these are expressions that I can use to improve my writing itself, to make my writing again more interesting. For example, if I'm writing a scary story or a horror story, of course there has to be some fear. People are afraid, and I have to make my reader afraid, and my characters should be afraid. For example, I can say my heart was thumping under my t-shirt. So thumping means it was beating very, very, very fast and loud. Okay, I went white as a ghost or as a sheet. Okay, the blood went out from my, it means that the blood went out from my face. I froze for a moment. Okay, I was shaking like a leaf or like jelly. I ran as fast as my legs could carry me. I stood breathless. I couldn't breathe. I felt a cold shiver in my back. So shiver is like you start shaking. Okay, I jumped out of my skin. I was scared to death. Okay, so these are all expressions that I can use to make my story again more interesting, to give it a little bit of life. Okay, I don't want my reader to get bored while he or she is reading my story. Also, those are some kind of adjectives that I can also use. Scared, terrified. Terrified means very scared. Horrified. Okay, frightened, petrified. Petrified means absolutely scared that you turn to like stone. You cannot move. You're petrified. Shocked. Okay, worried, concerned. Okay, so these are all adjectives also that I can use to describe the state of my characters. Now, if I'm writing an adventure story, or a story that doesn't have any horror elements, I can use things or expressions like I couldn't believe myself or my eyes. I was raised to the seventh heaven means I was so happy. I was leaping up and down in excitement. I was jumping from my happiness, from my joy. I was over the moon. Over the moon means extremely happy. It was a dream come true. Okay, I was on cloud 9. It means I was so happy. I was like a dog with two tails. So like a dog with two tails means I was so excited. I was jumping for joy. I was as happy as a flea in a dog's house. Okay, so these are all expressions that I can use if I'm describing a exciting or happy events to my reader. Also, these are adjectives that I can use while describing those events. Happy, glad, cheerful, wonderful, amazing, amazed. I was amazed. It was a marvelous day. Okay, the place was fascinating. It was spectacular. Spectacular means amazing, so amazing. Emotional. Okay, so these are all adjectives that I can use to describe happy or exciting events in my story. And we said they can use these expressions if I'm describing scary or spooky events in my story. Fine, these are all, like we said, things that or expressions that I can use while writing the middle, the body, okay, where the characters are facing the problem and trying to beat it. Fine. Now, here I finished my body, I finished the second paragraph. Now we said that my story has a beginning and a middle and an end. Okay, so now I'm going to give my writer a solution. We said we introduce a problem and we have to give a solution to it. We have to give some kind of ending to it. So where would I give this ending? It is in the third paragraph, which is the conclusion, is where I give my reader an ending. Okay, so you end your story according to your opinion, how you want to end it. You can have a happy ending or a sad ending. Okay, it's up to you. You want to make your reader happy. If it's a horror story, you want to make or you want to say that to your reader that all the people survived, they were all alive, and they would return back home safe. This is a happy ending. Or if you want, you can say that one of them died, for example, and all his friends were sad for him. Okay, so it's a sad ending. Okay. And you write about the characters' feelings at the end. How did they feel? They feel relieved. They were happy in the end that all these events passed by them. They felt worried that maybe something like this would happen to them again. They felt sad that one of their friends, for example, died or got injured, okay, got hurt. Fine, you write about, so you have to include the characters' feelings at the end. How did they feel while giving the solution to this problem? And of course, I don't forget to use linking words also in my conclusion. So if you open again on page 16, here I'm going to end my event. So here I'm going to provide a solution. So I'm going to say in my conclusion, in conclusion, for example, in conclusion, we ran away, or police finally came. Finally, here we go. Police finally came. At last, we found someone who helped us. In the end, okay. To sum up, this and this happened. Last but not least, okay, eventually this happened. So these are all linking words that I use in my conclusion, in the end, to link the events in the end. Okay, so quickly, let us revise again. How am I going to organize my story? We said, first of all, before I start writing anything, I should give my story a title. My title should be related to my story. Okay, it should be interesting and eye-catching. It should grab my reader's attention. Fine. And then I said, before I begin writing my paragraphs, organizing my writing in paragraphs, I should leave a space or indent at the beginning of each and every paragraph. Okay. And we said we don't draw X's anymore or draw arrows. We just start writing from the middle of my line and then continue writing normally. And of course, this we repeated in the start or in the beginning of each and every paragraph. Now, my paragraphs themselves, my writing, we said we will write at least 3 paragraphs. It's a story, it has to be long, so I have to write 3 paragraphs. We said that the first paragraph is my introduction, so this is my beginning. So what do I do in my introduction? We start our story, we introduce our story, we introduce our characters, who are the people responsible for doing the action in my story. I describe the setting. Okay, we said the setting is the place, the time, and the weather. Of course, I describe it in details, and I begin my story. We said that in page 14 and 15 in my booklet, I will find expressions that I can use to describe my setting, either if it's the time or the weather or the place. Okay, fine. Here also we have those are things to describe the place, also things that you can see or hear in that place. Okay, so things that you can hear, for example, chirping. Chirping is the sound that small birds have. Howling of the wind or of a dog. Okay, dogs howl. The wind howl. The wind creates like this swooshing loud sound. Okay, pitter patter. Okay, these are quick beats or steps. Find her heart went pitter patter. Thud, it's when the sound that a heavy object makes when it hits something else. For example, the thud of footsteps, the thud of something falling to the floor. Okay, so these things that you can hear, so I can include them in while describing the place. Okay, to give my reader or to make my reader imagine what I'm writing. Okay, things that you can see, the horizon, for example. The horizon is the farthest that you can see, where the sky seems to meet the land or sea. So the farthest point of your eyesight, this is what we call the horizon, where you feel that the sky and the land are separated by a line. This is the horizon. Okay, a plain, for example, it's a flat area usually of plants. So there was a wide plain, or we were in a wide plain. So a plain is a wide area of grass. So these are all also things that you can use to describe the place, okay, in the setting. Fine, and we said that we can use those also to those words or those expressions to describe my place or to create the mood for my reader if I'm writing a scary story, and or if I'm describing a nice place, if I'm writing an adventure story, for example, I use these. Okay, fine. And then here we finished our introduction. Okay, and then we go to the middle, to the body. This is the second paragraph. So the body, I start writing the details of my story. We said that my characters have to face a problem. So I introduce or I write about the problem that they are facing, or they how they are facing it, or how they are dealing with it. So I'm going to write the details of my adventure or of my story. I use as many linking words as possible. We said we don't want to make our writing boring. Okay, so we use linking and interesting words, and we don't write anything yet about the ending. We said the linking words that you could use to put my events in order: first, second, then, later, third, after that, next. Okay, and we said instead of using a lot, we can use furthermore, in addition to, besides. Okay, and to link the events, these are very important. Like we said, these are what makes my events are what make my events interesting. Suddenly, surprisingly, fortunately, unexpectedly, out of nowhere. Okay, so these are all words that I can use to link the events. And we said we have some expressions that I can use to improve my writing a little bit. If I'm writing a scary story, I can use those. If I'm writing an adventure story or describing happy events, I can use those. And then like this, I finished my body. Okay, and then I go to the conclusion, to the end, where I will provide a solution to the problem that I created. So I gave my problem to the reader in the body or in the middle. Now in the end or in the conclusion, which is the third paragraph, I will provide the solution or end my story. So you can give your story a happy ending or a sad ending, it's up to you. And I have to include my characters' feelings. How were they feeling at the end? And I also have to use linking words in the end, so not to make my story boring. And we said we can use words in the conclusion like finally, at last, in the end. Okay, last but not least, eventually. Fine. So this is how I'm going to write or organize my story from the title, beginning from the title until the conclusion. And of course, everything that was in this presentation, you will find it in your writing booklet, page 17. Okay, so this was it for creating a narrative story or a good story for my readers.